Nunez and Guru Dan. Thank
Danny
you for
Guru.
coming on the show tonight. We are live in my Facebook group, Conscious Heart Solutions, and this will be uploaded for anybody that is not able to make it to the live. You can go on YouTube and watch it at your leisure. So tonight we're doing a show on what's called the human design. And these two are experts at reading charts, or they've become experts. They're learned in this.
Dan's
reading,
more of the expert. He's got years of experience underneath his belt.
Okay. Well, I don't want to do a whole lot of talking. So what we're doing tonight is they're going to use me as an example, a prop for showing how this method can be helpful to others that are interested in becoming have a better, deeper understanding about themselves and how to navigate in this 3D reality or multidimensionally. I mean, I definitely consider myself a multidimensional navigator, so this is going to be interesting. Dan and I tried this one time before and it was fabulous, but I thought it would be great to have Jennifer come on and help me have a clearer understanding of what it is that I'm looking at and how to become more familiar with my chart. So enough said.
That's because you're so smart. Everything's made better when Jennifer's on.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's do this.
She's awesome.
Well, it's a lot of information to start off with. When people get their human design or they look at it, their first question is, what is it that I'm looking at? So how I like to explain it to people, and I know your audience base and the people that are viewing, it's really your spacesuit. You know, we're all souls. We're in this spacesuit, this avatar, this body, and it's the design of your vehicle and how it navigates through this plane. And that is a complete switch of stuff that we're normally used to. You know, we don't think, we know we're separate, but we don't think about it separately. So it's really a deep dive on what your genetic blueprint is, how you navigate, and different things that may be coming up, and answering those questions of, if you've done something like, why did I do that? Or why did I react that way? Or why am I thinking about this? I think at some point in everybody's life, we have those internal conversations with ourselves. Human design really gets down to the nuts and bolts of it.
And it ends up being what we call the science of differentiation. So it's a science. It's an empirical science. It's based on our genome so that we can measure that. We've measured that since 1957. And the human design body graph ends up being an imprinting that you can see, whereby the things that are colored in are the things that you are, and everything else is stuff that you're not. And the beauty of the human design system is you don't take our word for it, practice it your own self, physically see it in action. And you'll be like, oh my God, how do we know this stuff? It seemed like when I first heard about it, it was beyond our grasp. How could we know this? What I first thought. And then I've stopped asking that question over a decade ago, because how many times does it need to repeat before I guess we know this stuff? And so we attach literal language to the fact that you have an activation, and the next thing you know, we put that language into a form that we start to speak in a language that is you, Ada, that is you, Jennifer, or me, Dan, or you, Katie, if we read for you. So if we could pull up the body graph, we can just get our first look at what this is. And I'll go through real quick why the information is important to have.
Okay. And Dan, just very quickly, and I don't mean to correct you, but I am, because it's my name. My name is Aida. The A is
Ida.
silent. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Ida.
Nothing to apologize. Everybody, a lot of people do it, but I just want to, yeah.
Well,
okay.
Thank Ida.
Thank you.
So what we're looking at here, so everywhere where you see a shape colored in, we can call that out as, this is Ida. Everywhere you see a shape that is open, this is just a rough look at it, we can call this out as this is not Ida. And so what happens is we're born into this life, and the genetic imperative always makes us seek difference. And in that moment of seeking difference, what we end up doing is we start seeking these open centers. Ida, if you've ever, whoever your last flame was, or if you've ever been married, we would find out that that person or whoever's closest to you that you run hard with, we will find that they fill in 1, 2, or all 3 of these open centers that you have. So here we are making decisions about who we're going to spend our life with. I'm not saying you in particular. This happens to all of us. And we're making decisions unaware that our body is attracting ourselves for the right genetic mix to make the right offspring. And we don't always want to make decisions based on only that. That sounds like, Aryan nation stuff, to make the right offspring. We just want to mix because we feel right, and we feel right over the long term. Other things we see in a body graph right away are there's 2 sets of information, one set on the right, one set on the left, red and black. This is the personality and the body, the design. They're separate, but they're brought together. We end up with lots of confusion about who am I, because we're just now getting in touch with the fact that our body has an intuition, a very strong intuition, and all the time. And what's really coming up is this is where we channel. So us, past several centuries, we've been getting better and better at literally channeling the forces through us to where we then spit it out into the world. Ida, I can look at your body graph and I see that all your definition, almost all of it, is unconscious on the design side. You have no idea why you say what you're going to say half the time before you say it. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. It's not that you can't plan out something. It's not that you don't have your bullet points to run a format on a show, or that's not the point. The point is, in the moment of speaking, the words get put together so spontaneously that very often you don't know why you just said that, because it just comes out so spontaneously because you've got all this unconscious definition. Things about
Can I ask you a question? Is that I mean, I don't know if I want to use the words good or bad, but is that
that's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect for you, and it's great.
It doesn't feel perfect, Dan.
No, I know because because there's this theme of our not self. If you look at the top of this body graph, you'll see there's a strategy that gets you in touch with yourself, and it's to respond. It's as a responder. And then there's this not self theme, which is when our mind is trying to take over and be our authority, be that which tells us what we're going to do. And that's when you run into frustration. That whole doesn't feel good is simply the reaction of the other. It felt fine to you in the moment, but somehow the other gives you something, and then that goes into you because they have a design too, and their aura goes into you, and then suddenly that doesn't feel quite right. And it feels like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Uh-oh, I have a conflict. Oh, no, I feel under pressure to say something else. Oh, I thought I had a great insight, but I guess I couldn't assimilate it into speech. You start second guessing yourself based on that which you're not, based on that which doesn't even matter. And it's only later that we find out, and it's only later in life as we get older and more mature, and we start to realize, who the heck cares, right? Half the time now, Ida, when you run into something, you might spend a moment in turmoil over, oh gosh, I wish something had gone a little different, but it doesn't take long before you relax and be like, who cares? If they could, if this hurt someone's feelings, I didn't mean to hurt their feelings. We have to talk about it, or they're not necessarily right for me. This is something we come to recognize over time. You're about to say something, Ida?
Well, I think, people get people do get offended by me,
Right.
especially my family quite often, because I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to, I just am a very direct, straight, I just speak what comes to my mind, whatever it is I'm feeling into. And I shared this with you last time, Dan, if I don't feel like I'm on point with what I feel is happening in whatever the scenario is, and I feel that there's something that I need to be paying attention to, I will fall back and observe before I open my mouth. If I'm opening my mouth, it's because I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Because your response, sometimes you're compelled. Have you noticed those moments when you're compelled?
Well, I mean, I think I get compelled a lot because I'm very curious. And yeah.
Right. So that would be normal. So let's go all the way back to the 4-year-old and the 5-year-old and the mother that's a little concerned that the 5-year-old won't, speaks their mind so quickly. And they start trying to train that out of their 5-year-old to be more polite, let's say, or something in their society that, well, in that moment, they're taking that 5-year-old away from their nature. And, 30 years later in life, suddenly we have a big fat chip on our shoulder and we don't know why. And it's because we get taken away from our nature. If you look at all this unconscious definition, that unconscious means it's moving along inside of you as a life force that's both reliable and you don't have any access to it until it shows up. No
Okay,
access.
can I ask you this question, Dan? What is the, so one side you have the design, the other side's the personality, and I noticed the numbers, the difference in the numbers.
They're different.
Some are lower on the design side, higher on the personality side, and vice versa.
Yep.
So can you, help myself and the audience, those that will be listening,
Yep.
understand what it is we're looking at here? And
the numbers. So the numbers, we call it the database. There's a database on the right and a database on the left. The database on the right is what we have conscious access to. Let's just use the sun, earth, let's just do the first couple of things on the right hand side. So numbers being higher and lower numerically is irrelevant. Each number is assigned to a hexagram, to one of the numbers in the body graph. So it doesn't matter what the number is.
That comes from the I Ching. So anybody who is viewing that knows the I Ching can associate that's the numbers.
Correct.
So it's not like counting. It's just that when you were born on the personality side, when you came into the world, that's where it hit in that I Ching, in the wheel, which is more complex.
Well, yeah, I'd love to understand that better because, I was told by somebody that I hold in high regard last night that I need to start learning astrology and learning my chart in a much deeper level if I want to
let's get you learning this chart and having astrology be something that you, as an adjunct, as a supplement to all of the stuff that you learn. Because when you learn this stuff, you'll see why it's pouring through the various astrology signs. Notice all these planets. These are all planets on either side, and they repeat. Well, they repeat according to our genome. There's 13 on either side, and there's 13 chromosomes that sew up a full accounting before it repeats. This is our genetic way that vibrates up to the surface to become the reliable thing we were struck in place with. At the time of birth, you were minted like a coin with this imprinting at the moment of separation, and then you carry this throughout the whole life, being your different self amongst a sea of people who are also different. Now, when we can really start to see that as a community and as a people, suddenly we will, we won't be so mad at the other guy. That's one thing we get out of this. Another thing is we get to make decisions more easily as ourselves rather than as what we think someone else wants us to do. So gate 7, they're called a gate, by the way. Everywhere you see a purple circle around a number on your body graph, those are gates, or quote, an activation. So gate number 7, line 3, which is at the very top, the sun, earth on the personality side. Gate 7. So this is your role in leadership, your role in interaction with the other, and your role in providing a direction of moving forward into the future. So what does Aida do to provide a direction to moving forward? She uses trial and error. I can count on Aida being a trial and errorist. She's going to try some of this. No, let's try some of that. Let's try some of this until finally you bump into the right thing that works.
Well, isn't that true, Dan?
Of course,
I am definitely a trial and error. Yes.
Well, and there's another aspect that comes along with this trial and error, and it relates to, and it's called adaptation. It's keynoted with adaptive. It's keynoted with being able to sustain. So here's Aida, and it didn't work. Well, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, all the second line personalities like myself are like, no, I quit. I'm going to try something else. And there you are. Nope. Sustain. Nope. Sustain. And if someone gets in my way and I have to keep this up because I'm in a trial and error process, what happens in trial and error when you find out something really doesn't work? Well, many people walk away, but not Aida. Aida tears it down. You're an anarchist. Not always.
Wow. Dan, it's so true. I mean, I could name several things in my life where I just am not a person that gives up.
And the bigger
I
the
don't.
thing, the more obvious it becomes. It's not so obvious to see the anarchist when you're shopping in the supermarket and the price is a little higher than you thought. Okay, we're not going to see it so much. But on the bigger things, relationships, big life events, oh no, I want you handy when we have to figure out how to make the next thing, and we need to go through a trial and error process. Because when you have a third line like this 7.3 and the 13.3, what we see is someone who helps provide a direction moving into the future from the stuff we figured out from the past. This is you. This is the Sphinx. You're providing us the direction of this incarnation cross, the right angle cross of the Sphinx. Trial and error as it relates to what needs to get torn down, as it relates to how not to be pessimistic about it when it's all said and done, because pessimism is actually a way. It's a way that you learn to become less pessimistic, because you've dealt with pessimism on and off and then on and off. And so you become a pro at it over time. What that helps drive a direction for the rest of humanity to not be so pessimistic. Pessimism
Are you
drives optimism.
suggesting that I'm pessimistic, Dan? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, but it's not that you, quote, are pessimistic. It's that this word we use called pessimism is actually just a chemistry in our body like everything else. And when that chemistry of the feeling of it rises up even a little bit, you are all too familiar with it because it's baked into you to help measure your way. If you're too pessimistic about something, that's your clue to not do it. And you've been probably following that now for quite a while.
Well, yeah, but that's interesting you say that. And maybe well, let me just say this. I feel like I've noticed more pessimism in my life since I've moved to Florida, I think, than in my entire life. Or maybe I was just not aware of my own, because I've always considered myself pretty enthusiastic. I'm very encouraging to others and enthusiastic about new experiences and new people and that kind of thing. But I suppose I could be pessimistic. Yes.
We've given pessimism a bad rap. As if it's in place, it's one thing, and that's now all the person is. Like you call someone a narcissist. Well, maybe they have narcissistic tendencies, but that's not all they are, except for, I guess, some rare individuals truly are only that, but it would be wicked rare. Pessimism isn't there to be given a bad name, as in the person is only pessimistic. It's a chemistry in our body that we've spoke about long enough in our literature that we keynote it with the word pessimism, because it's a limited perspective that you have. When I say limited, you will limit your pessimism and use it as a way to measure what to do next. It's just a chemistry that comes up, and you suddenly are using it in your own way to basically move forward. You are always remembering the past to see why we move into the future. This is your binary. Does that sound familiar?
I mean, I suppose I'd have to give that some more thought, but I definitely reflect back to my past. I don't want to repeat cycles. I'll tell you that, if that has anything to do with this. So I am super pessimistic, if you want to use the word pessimistic. I'm just super conscious and aware that I've repeated cycles over and over and over again, doing the same damn thing, getting the same results. That now that I have learned some things about myself and done some deep diving and inner work and healing and practicing discipline, I am just adamant that I'm not going to repeat another cycle, that it's time to move forward. And only I can do that for myself.
Only you can do that for yourself.
Yeah,
it's entirely true.
That's an excellent way for you to associate it with how you're doing this, because just like Dan said, how you binarily do this, that's your way of recognizing that that's what you're doing. Where you were younger, you may not be doing that as often, and now that you're older and you don't want to repeat those patterns, you're actually taking a moment to reflect on that, and that's what's pushing you forward.
That's exactly right, Jennifer. And the other thing about this number 3 here at the end of the 7 and the 13, that's part of your profile, your 3-5 profile. That tells me, as soon as I see this, that says this being is going to be martyred in their lifetime, most likely by a not self world, because they see trial and error as the dreaded making a mistake. Western societies very much have this, have this illness whereby a mistake can be the worst thing in the world. Oh, don't make a mistake. Don't make a mistake. Sometimes it seems to get a bad rap as well. There's no such thing as a mistake for you, Ida. You've never made a mistake in your life. And I imagine you're going to find that hard to believe at some point, but there are no mistakes for you. You try it and then sustain through it and then show the rest of us what the product of that trial and error was. If it's not for you, the planet doesn't mutate and we'd still be in the trees.
So wait a minute. So you mentioned, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I will be wanting to dialogue with you back and forth because of course you stimulate questions in my mind. So you said what was that about martyrdom? Say that again.
You've been, the likelihood is for most people with a 3-5 profile somewhere in their life, they've been martyred. People are like, oh, she's just going to make that same old mistake again. Oh, she's always making a mistake doing this and that. And there you are standing by your principles because third lines must stand by their principles. Where others cut bait and run, Ida doesn't necessarily do that very easily because you've got this very sustaining third line personality that is concerned with gate 7, leadership, and gate 13, which is all about remembrance and listening. It's all about the secrets that come into you and what you hear. So you put these two things together and they derive from the past the correct direction to move into the future based on your trial and error measurements of what you've gone through in your life so far. This is how you're navigating, and it's happening naturally in you. It's not like you have to pull out a textbook and jot it down. This is part of your way. We can count on it. Other things about this chart, and Ida, please interrupt. I will stop on a dime.
Well, I appreciate that you're I please continue. So go down, if you don't mind going down I'm trying to understand, if this, how this chart can help me understand myself better.
To go down further is to go up first. So let's go to the manifesting generator designation by that word type. At the very top, the manifesting generator.
Okay.
So there's 4 types on the planet, generators and 3 other types. Most of us are generators. Jen is a manifester. Sorry, Jen. And we're manifesting generators, Ida, you and I. But we're still a generator. That means we must surrender to our responsive nature. But because we have a manifesting component in our body graph, by the way, your manifesting component starts at gate 14 and you're off the top of your sacral and goes all the way up in a straight line to the throat. That's what makes you these 2 channels make you a manifesting generator. Don't worry about the mechanics of why that's so right now. It's just so you're a manifesting generator. That means you're fast. If you're a manifesting generator, you like to move fast. When people talk, if they talk too slow, you finish their sentence for them. If they, unless it's being rude, when you're moving along, you're always in a hurry to get to where is it your destination is. You're always quick and speedy with your things. Manifesting generators skip steps. It's in our signature. We can't help it. I am one as well. Sometimes we skip the step of a proper introduction. Sometimes we skip the step of reading chapter 1 because we skipped to chapter 3 and 5. They appeared more interesting. And in that way, we generate our truth by going backwards and forwards and here and there until we've got a holistic picture. We're supposed to do that. And other people see that as chaotic and disorganized and crazy sometimes. Look, she went here and then she went there and now she's over here and now she's over there. But holistically, you're always putting a full picture together by doing that now, aren't you?
Well, absolutely, Dave.
All right. But not everyone else does that.
Let me tell you, you are absolutely correct. Well, and I've said, I'm a chapter ahead, not a page, sometimes a book. I tell people, okay.
We and I have had that conversation.
Yes, we have, Jennifer. And Jennifer and I can have a whole conversation while both of us are talking and we hear everything each other says, get it, and process it. Like, right? We can respond to each other in that way, and because we understand the way we communicate, I suppose.
The manifesting generator and the generator are closest in kinship to each other. The closest kinship to a manifester would be a manifesting generator, essentially. because we all want to go fast. We're like the Ricky Bobby story. I want to go fast.
Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I would love to slow down, but I just don't because
it's not in your nature.
It's not my nature. And I used to say I'm rushing to go nowhere quick, right?
Right.
But yeah. And
well, now
I realized,
take on a purpose is the thing. If you know, again, had you been a child and your parents said, oh, no, sweetie, it's okay to tiptoe back and forth, go forward a little bit. Does that excite you? And you'd be like, okay, skip to chapter 10. And if you're interested enough in the subject matter, you won't be frustrated when it's time to go back to chapter 1. You'll just do it. You'll work.
Not a whole lot keeps my interest in. That's the thing. It's got to be something that's really intellectually stimulating and really, I mean, I just have lost interest in so many things.
So quickly. You lose it quickly.
I do lose it quickly.
Yeah.
And stuff like this, I love. I love to learn. And this is definitely intriguing to me and interesting, but there's just boring stuff that I have no interest in, I don't know how to explain it. There's just
you probably want to skip ahead to the good part.
Yeah, well, my niece said to me, Aunt Ida, you have to learn how to talk about other stuff besides all the stuff you talk about.
No, you
a lot
don't.
of people don't want to talk about what you're talking about. I'm like, well, I don't want to talk about what they're talking about either. I don't want to talk about,
Yeah, Ida, you don't have to do exactly what your niece was pointing out.
Well, I'm not doing it. They know that.
What you can do is you can consciously, in a moment when you recognize that you're not listening to the other, if they're important to you, you can put yourself aside and stop and listen. But when your eyes start glazing over because you really don't care about what they're saying, don't let them take that personally, and don't yourself think that you failed. You didn't.
Can I point out one thing real quick?
Yeah.
The one thing that I love about human design is that it really gets us back to who we are and how we can react to the world. It's the people that we interact with, those reactions who are not awake to their design, that are still in the program, that still think that everybody has to be the same. It's breaking out of that, and it's really accepting, just like Dan was saying, no you don't. It's okay to be no you don't. You don't have to listen if you don't want to listen or anything like that. It's really stepping and being your authentic self.
Right. And the people who are right for you will love you that way. That's the point. That is the full-on point. The people who are correct for you will love you that way. Now we're getting to something practical, because listen to what I just said. It implies that it is a decision-making tool. I am not going to decide to spend my time at the place where my eyes glaze over because I don't want to hear what they're talking about. I'm bored to death. I don't want it. That doesn't make them bad, and it doesn't make you bad or good, or it doesn't, there's no
That's right.
Right.
I agree with
so now all of a sudden, okay, do you want to come over to this place tonight, or go over there? And now all of a sudden you're making an aware decision. No, actually I don't want to go here. I'd rather go over here, because you're aware of what's going to happen there. Now you would, Ida, you're far enough along in your life process, you'd make that decision naturally. But I'm letting you know, this is what's making that decision for you. You have a construct inside of you that says, I like to zippity-doo-dah along at a decent clip, and don't bore me, please. I need stimulation. I need to empower people. If they don't want to hear what I have to say, I can't empower them. I'm no longer in the right place. So there's another decision.
Fascinating statement. That's interesting what you just said.
Well, pull it
because
apart.
I often feel like I have a lot to share, and I feel what I have to share is valuable information. It's not
valuable.
And everybody has that, we all have something to share that's important and valuable, but I just have gotten to a point where I'm becoming less and less willing to well, I shouldn't say willing. People don't want to hear what I have to. Well, let's refer to my family does not want to hear what I have to say. They're just not interested. Fair enough. And, it's
mine as well, by the way.
Yeah, it could be a little disheartening because, yeah. Anyway, they never have wanted to hear what I have to say, Dan, since I was a child. And I think that's something I need to come to terms with. I don't mean to get in an emotional, I'm
Listen,
just saying, like,
this-
I've been, you know, undermined it.
you've been projected upon, Ida, that you would be something they wanted you to be, and in your trial and error process you would bump into everything but what they wanted you to be, essentially, with a few exceptions. That's what happens in this design. This design is designed to bump into things and then universalize a new truth that seems like a heresy, as if the other place wants to shush you. Don't say that, Ida. Come on, don't talk about that here. And Ida's like, no, because there's a component of you that must universalize the truth, your truth. And if
Yeah,
the other doesn't want to hear it, it's because you can tell. And at that moment, you recognize I'm not empowering them. As soon as you can't empower the other, Ida is sad and she doesn't want to be there anymore. Period. Just
that's
count on that.
interesting, Dan. I think that's, I mean, I don't know that I take it so personal to that extent, but maybe I do. I don't know. I mean,
Well, you
it's not that I want to, it's my nature to uplift and want to empower or share information that I feel, and I tell people, don't just go by what I'm telling you. Go do your own research.
and if they
Put
start
some
saying, I
effort
don't
in, and
want to,
people, yeah,
I
they
don't
don't
want
want
to,
to.
I don't care. No, Ida's just saying her stuff again. Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah.
that. Yep. Now it hurts.
Or they want me to prove everything to them, and I'm not going to sit and do your own damn research. When I hear stuff about something that interests me or I question and it's important to me, I go research it. I don't wait for somebody to,
Absolutely.
yeah.
This is what a trial and
But
error
then,
does. They look at every last thing, and they don't
but
really stick to any one thing. They bounce around.
but how about this, Dan? We have an innate divine blueprint where we know that the spirit of truth. Like when you hear something, whether if it resonates the truth or not.
Damn
Like,
straight.
when somebody, so everything I hear, I don't necessarily have to research everything because I'll know well enough whether it's something, whether there's, um, the ring of
Whether
truth.
there's truth in it.
Yeah.
Whether there's truth in it. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, let's look at one of the things that's doing that inside of you. So there's this life force channel. Wherever there is a channel in the body graph, that's a full solid line between two numbers. So look at right between the G center and the throat. There's a gate number 1 and a gate number 8 above it. Because they both are activated, that creates a channel, and a channel becomes something that's so powerful in
Wait a
your life.
minute. Gate number 8. I
And
Right
can't
here.
see. Okay.
Yep, and gate
It's
number
right
1.
here, and then here's one.
It's hard. They're sort of small, but
Yeah, yeah.
because they're both defined in your body graph, they come together and create a quantum. It becomes something greater than the sum of its original parts, and it becomes a life force you can always count on. In short, this life force is called the channel of inspiration. It's whereby our inspired identity, which is our love that gets put in a direction, must be contributed out into the world. So Ida must contribute her inspiration, and that inspiration is the very base essence of your identity and your creative way. Ida must contribute her creation into the world, or else you're not in the right place. If you can't contribute, you're not in the right place. You're not with the right people at that time. Suddenly you can start to make decisions based on that. And that's not even the most profound one. But this channel of inspiration, gate 8 says, I must contribute my unique inspiration. And gate 1 says, I have inspiration without limitation, independent of will, ego, or the other. It's basically struck in place by God himself. He gave us inspiration beyond limitation. And for you experience this in a pulse. You're chugging along, and then in a moment you got nothing, and then one moment later suddenly you're got an inspiration. I got it, aha. And you have this incredible aha moment, and the first thing you want to do is basically empower someone else with it. Dude, look what I figured out. So aha, one moment, within 18 seconds you're calling somebody, dude, guess what I figured out, blah 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 blah. And you got 1,000 words for it because the inspiration has no limitation, and it's bursting with so much manifesting generator energy that you've got to literally contribute it. This is a design of someone who will contribute their own unique essence, contribution. So Humanity is designed.
Fascinating, because I do believe, okay, I think we have a question.
Does human
looks like.
design have, what does that say? I missed it.
What was that, Katie? Please put it back on the screen. Let's look. Somebody's watching the show and they have a question. So here we go. Does human design have connection to anagrams and MS? What is that? MBTI profile?
What is MBTI? And no, it doesn't, by the way. It's got no connection to anything else yet. It's got a little bit of connection to astrology, the I Ching, and the Hindu Brahmins, but only in as much as they're
and the Kabbalah. It's the Kabbalah, the chakra system, astrology, the I Ching, and quantum physics.
Correct. Yes. Thank you, Jennifer. So, you can count on that stuff. Other stuff about a manifesting generator is that they have this immediate strategy that wants to respond. So Ida, you always know that as soon as something happens, you have a response to that. I say something, you have a response. I say something, you got a question, that's a response. Someone does something, you have a response to that. Someone enters your aura, you have a response to that. Your responses come out like fire, on fire, quickly, and there's nothing you can really do about it. Sometimes these responses will be visceral depending on what's going on in the moment. You know, we are human, we're in a human condition. It's not like, you know, all things, some things are even life and death, and you always have an immediate survival response for everything. And we think that's fight or flight or survival mode. No, that's our sacral, this red box down near the bottom, this thing that is the life force inside the human body, the human design body graph, which correlation is to just the testicles and the ovaries of humanity. It's buzzing with energy designed to make more, sustaining with an impact that literally keeps everything alive and keeps everything moving. That's what the sacral does. It does something else too. It speaks in response. It says, I don't know, maybe, yes, no, I don't feel like it, probably, possibly. Ida, do you love me? Well, mostly. That's a response.
I love Dan.
Well,
I mean,
how personally might I take that if I don't know better?
That came out naturally. Yes. Meaning I love your personality stuff. I think you're awesome.
Thank you.
I
love you too. And so, but that's a great big question between couples, for instance. Sometimes in the middle of the greatest love affair, one of the partners is still, well, you know, mostly I'm tired.
Yeah, right.
That's their truth. Now, if the other partner is awake and aware, they'll be like, yes, sweetie, of course you are. I love you too. And this is great. And that's that. Boom. No fight, no problem, no fuss, because they knew to respond. So, Ida, when we get into a world that demands we manifest our existence, we get frustrated. We're supposed to, according to the world and all the propaganda, we're supposed to make it happen. We're supposed to identify what we want, know what we want, go out and get it. We're supposed to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, right? We're supposed to manifest, initiate. If we're a generator, manifesting or a pure generator, it doesn't matter. If we have that red sacral box defined, you're a generator. If you're a generator, your truth comes as a response. That which is true inside of you comes as a response to stimuli, period. Just like a single cell in a petri dish. You put a hot poker in the middle and they all move away. You pull it out and those cells all move back together into stasis, some kind of homeostasis, and they're fine. We humans are supposed to do the same thing.
Fascinating how you know all this information, Dan. I don't know that I would. Yeah.
Years.
Years. I'll point something out. I love how y'all touched on the couples thing. So I'm a manifester. I don't have that sacral energy like y'all do. And sometimes I will push myself, and Dan will tell me, rest, you've been busy enough, go take a nap, you know, because he knows when I get tired. And it's because he does that, I love him even more, because it's that understanding where it's most couples don't have that. There's not that understanding, especially if there's two different design types. And so I think it is important that we do start to normalize this and recognize what the other person's design is, because then we can be truly who we are and authentic, and the other person can be accepting in that at the same time.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. And I was listening and my mind was going and I was thinking, how perfect that would be for couples to be able to embrace this system so that they are able to understand each other better and truly respect each other's autonomy and way of being rather than wanting to change them for their personal comfort.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So important that, I mean, I think this is, I mean, I don't know nothing. I'm looking at a graph and I'm only going by what Dan, and I'm very thankful, and you, Jennifer, are sharing with me. I mean, my thing is will I study this? I suppose that if I put some energy into it, I will learn so much more about myself. But
Don't study it unless you want to. If you feel called, study it. Part of you might feel called. I see a lot of second lines in your body graph.
what does that mean?
I see 1, 2, I see 3 second lines in your body graph. That's where you'll feel called. The 3s and the 5s the 2s and the 5s will call you. For depth, you may get called into wanting to have the resources of this knowledge so that you can help control the outcome through the depth you gain. That's where you get called. However, I keynoted those things quickly so I can move on. This responsive nature that I want to just sort of wrap up is there for everything. You'll notice that just like the 5-year-old, if you ask them, do you want chocolate ice cream? And they go, that's a response in the moment. If they're a generator child, that's their response. In that responsive moment, that child just gave you the magic of their truth. And we don't really see it as the mystical, enormously consequential act that was in that moment. The kid just gave me its truth. It's getting late and someone says, hey, it's getting late, you want to come in? And they go, well, that's a response. It's their truth. We got to look at it. And so if you're a parent and you have generator children, you start to retool your interaction with them to where most everything is a yes or no question at the beginning, even when they're going to say when you want them to say yes. Do you want to clean your room? Okay, I could see that coming a mile away, but you still ask them so they can hear their response. And it won't take long before you strike a balance as a parent where you start to recognize, I'm just asking as a way to hear their response, not as what they're going to get away with. And you start working with them. You start realizing you can say no all you want, and that's fine, but sooner or later, you're still going to have to clean your room. I'm the parent here. We need, take this spatula and scrape that 2-day-old pizza off the carpet, right? Sooner or later, but you still ask them, do you feel like taking the spatula to scrape that 2-day-old pizza? So they can feel their responsiveness and recognize that the primary caretaker, their parent, isn't going to judge them for it. Of course I don't want to. Of course I don't, I don't, well, okay, well, you got to do it anyway. All right. But at least they heard their response. And then later in life, no one will ever be able to hijack their energy by making them do things they don't want to do. Suddenly they'll have the job they want. They'll have the relationship they want. They'll have the things that are right for them simply because they didn't lose touch with their inner responder. And Ida, this is working in you day in and day out, moment to moment to moment. It is so existential that it doesn't matter what the moment is. You can be afraid all you want. You're still going to have a perfected response in the moment. You're a design of a perfected being that has a perfected response that's intuitively clear in the now with a great deal of power, contributing your energy in order to break through so that you can literally survive the moment, survive the conversation.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So being the youngest of 12 kids, I definitely know that there's been some, and I come from the Arabic culture. So I feel like it's in my DNA, not necessarily, my mother, I wasn't raised for women to cater to men, but I wasn't raised that way by my mother, but it comes from my dad's side. The Arabic women definitely cater to the men and, are the how, they're the caretakers for everybody,
right,
really.
Right.
I mean,
right.
So this is part of my nature, or is this something I've been conditioned with? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that part of my makeup, or is that something I've been culturally conditioned by?
Which thing? The nurturer?
Being a nurturer and caretaker and, putting other people before myself constantly.
It's so funny that you keynote this. Down at the bottom of your body graph, you'll see in your sacral center, you'll see a gate 27 and a gate 42. It is, and it's totally in alignment with your designs, with your designs profile, in that gate 27 is in a 5th line and it's in Venus. Venus is where you develop the morals and the mores by which you will ultimately live by. Gate 27 is the gate of nurture, the gate of caring. It's tribal. It demands sensitivity and support. It has to know what it wants to care for, or else the morals inside of you that you grow your compass by can't exist and can't literally express what ultimately will become the law that is you. Your law of yourself is that which I care for, I would like to care for deeply. That which I care for, I would like to care for deeply. Not everyone has that. Some people could care less, and that's okay for them. But if you have gate 27 in your body graph, gate 27 says, I am part of the tribal defense circuit. My specific genetic codon has a structure by which I will nurture and care, mostly for offspring, obviously, to see that they survive. But it's still about you, the holistic being. What do you care about? Now, this is working along in you unconsciously. As soon as you don't care about that person enough, next thing you know, you're not the most nurturing person for them. And that's okay too. It has to be according to you. That's not selfish. That's you. That's personal to you, shall I say. So this is something you can count on. And gate 42 says it literally is the sacral sustaining energy to not only care, but 42 says, I am the sacral sustaining energy. This you will recognize. If I bite onto something, I want to see it all the way through. I want that experience. I want to say yes to completing this process. I want to be the completion of this dang process. I want to complete the process.
Okay, Dan, that's a good thing that you're mentioning here, because I feel like I start a lot of stuff and don't finish it. I don't complete things.
You don't. I'm sure you don't, because the things you start, someone wasn't there to ask you yes or no, do you want to do this? We are here to commune and ask each other questions so that we can hear our responses. We've been out of our responsive nature since we were 3, 4, and 5 years old, because our parents stopped asking us questions at an early age and started telling us, go cook the bread, go fix the dinner, go clean your room, go be a good girl, go find a good husband, go, what are you going to be when you grow up, blah, blah, blah. They told us. There's no place to respond inside of that. You remember that question when you were young by chance? Did you get asked it? What are you going to be?
I don't know, because I don't know that you really want to hear my response to that. But
Yeah.
the truth is, I don't remember. I remember going in an underground sewer tunnel at the age of 5 years old, and I was initiated into this realm. So I remember being used in projects and programs. I don't know that my memory is exactly how things were.
Now I understand what you're saying. That's a perfectly great response, but your perfected 2- and 3-year-old form was still waiting to be the right responder until it was taken away from its nature. And at 4 and 5, it started fully being taken away from its nature, maybe earlier, like you're pointing out. And and then ever since then, we've never really gotten back to it. The only way to get back to it is to enter into your experiment that says, am I truly a responder? Is it true that I really don't quite know what's fully true for my energy in my moment, unless it's a response? It's an experiment. Experiment with yourself that says, I'm gonna work with this responsive nature Dan's talking about, and I'm gonna see that I have the sacral inner authority, and that when I don't listen to my responder, I can tell I didn't listen to it because I said yes when I meant to say no. That's the biggest example we run into. We say yes when we mean to say no. Yeah, I'll be right there. Okay, I'll help you do the thing, right? We say yes, and we didn't want to. So that's the most common thing that I can point to. And and it's a thing that's in your body graph. Gate 29 is defined twice, and gate 29 just wants to commit its energy to something it can get into an experiment with and to an experience with, shall I say. And so suddenly in that moment, this responsive experiment that you're entering into is to recognize, my gut response said no, but I said yes. Look at that. I didn't listen to it. And lo and behold, my energy is not at 100%. The body.
Well, I've had my fair share of that because the truth is I'll feel in the energy. I'll see, whatever the experience is, and I'll know, and I will, not now, not so much now, but when I was younger, I just didn't want to believe people were the way they were. I
Right.
didn't want to believe it. I
I
wanted to see the good in everybody. I went for the heart, and I thought if I loved them enough, or I cared for them enough, or I nurtured them enough, or I valued them enough, that they would want to do better for themselves, not for me, but for themselves. And all the while, I neglected my own development, my own spiritual
yeah,
growth,
yeah.
and emotional maturity, and the whole bit. And now, at 54 years old, here I am learning how to grow up. I mean, I'm not the most emotionally mature person. I will be the first one to admit that.
No, why would you be? It's
Yeah,
because why would any of us be really? It's a rare person that gets to luck out and become truly emotionally mature until we start to get into these mechanics because
yeah,
we're taken away from our nature so much. So what you just described is a gate 27 that unconsciously is forcing you to tribally care for something. It's incredible power inside our body that determines what will we care for and nurture. And
yeah.
it's and once it starts, gate 42 says I started a process, I have to see this through. And then the manifesting generator in you says, I don't feel like doing this anymore, I quit.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, the things you're saying you didn't follow through on, yeah, you would quit because ultimately there wasn't the responsiveness that got into it. It was a mental construct that said, if I do this, then I'll get that. This is something that we've got to get away from because it's our body that gives us a responsive truth. That's what navigates decision making inside us. It doesn't mean we can always like do exactly what the responsive truth is because we're right in the middle of this complex world, but it means we see it and we start to say, if that was true, that means I'm not supposed to be here, or I'm not supposed to do this thing, or I am supposed to do that thing. Whatever it is, you listen to that responder because it can't lie. The
Hey,
responder can't lie and it's immediate.
can
Go
I
ahead.
ask you a question, Dan? Is there a way to look on this graph and be able to tell what my strengths are and what it is that maybe
Oh, yeah. Your
what
strength is you're a quality thinker. And if someone sits in your aura long enough, they can get the explanation to almost anything ever. That's one of your
okay,
superpowers.
how do I figure out what my strengths are in order to create a system for myself to be in service to other people, meaning
Okay.
how I can
This
be
is a great
helpful.
question.
And yeah.
Yeah, this is a great question. So I would move to the top four things that there's. So there's four things. Understand this manifesting generator type is quick and it likes its energy moving in the direction it wants, meaning it's self-absorbed. It wants its direction to move where it wants it to move. Period. That's what a manifesting generator does. That's got to be okay. So accept that in yourself. Accept this 3-5 profile that attracts society on one end and creates expectations upon you, and on the other end is a martyr that just bumps into things and sometimes makes mistakes, but there's no such thing as a mistake. Accept this. You're a trial and errorist. You sustain at that, and anyone in your life as it relates to empowering people is going to have to accept that you are a responder and that you have a truth that shows up in response, and you can tell when you're not responding because you feel frustrated. The theme of the not self comes as a chemistry inside your body that rises up and it feels frustrating, just and to the point of anger at times. Sometimes you can blow up. If you find yourself angry, blowing up and frustrated, you're in a place where you're not supposed to be. And that's okay. There's no harm in that. It's just about seeing it, because once you see it, it starts to make it go away. Um,
It's not often that I do that. It's not often that I do that, but
sure.
when I
You know
do,
what I'm
it's
talking about. Yeah,
after I feel like I've tried to
right.
explain myself so many times and people are just not getting me.
It,
And
it's a
I am
frustration
just
that,
then
yeah.
I lose I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore.
Well,
I'm
it's a
not I don't like to argue. I don't like to, I love to have fun and be playful and loving and do
of course.
kind things for people and this and that. And I'm almost at the point where it's like I'm on guard, Dan. I
Yeah.
don't know. Well, I'm on guard because it's like I've been over giving I'm a Pleiadian. I'm very open about that. I'm not human in the way people understand what is human. Okay. And I'm okay saying that. And people can take it however they want. That's not my business. That's the truth. right? Not my truth, the truth. Okay. So it's my nature to want to to offer gifts to people, to be kind, to do nice things, I love to cook. I love being a nurturer and kind to people. But I'm at the point where I've done that for people that really don't value me. They're just take. And I realize at this point, because I don't understand why I'm not being accepted, or it's so difficult, people have a difficult time being around me, right? They think, I'm not
Well,
looking
you're
for,
too powerful.
well, I'm not
I
an
was just gonna
attention
say that.
seeker. I'm a freaking Leo, and it's my nature. And I hate to say that, but I really do believe it is my nature. Besides, I'm also an Aquarius rising, Aquarius moon. If there's any validity or any truth to any of the science of our different
Astrology, there is.
astrologicals, yes, I am a very outgoing, humanitarian, caring person. And people do have a
You're also
difficult
an
time.
alpha, dude. You're an alpha because
Yeah.
gate 7 is part of the channel of the alpha. But the thing is, it's not the old way alpha, whereby I say you do. It's the elected alpha. Alpha that only through consensus can they have their power to lead.
What
So
does that mean? Help me understand. I don't
only
understand.
through consensus of the others. In other words, you're an alpha for yourself. You're an alpha for those who let you be. But if somebody struggles against it, it's not like you then have the power to force them. You don't. Nobody does anymore. We're beyond that as a species. We are these.
I wouldn't want to do that anyways. Why
You
would I
wouldn't
want
want
to
to.
force anybody to be
No, you
anything?
wouldn't want to. But
Yeah.
in reality, then in your now moments, suddenly you find yourself in positions of leadership, whereby you're leading the moment, shall we say. It's not always long term, but it shows up. There's another. And the last thing of the 4 things that you said, what can I do to graph this out? So the 4th thing, after you get used to this responsive nature of yours, and you start to experiment with, am I really a responder? Do I have to wait to respond? Is that actually more healthy for me? You will start to find out, oh, yes, it is. It doesn't mean you do less stuff. It means you waited to respond rather than always trying to initiate to make it happen. And you start to see that, oh my God, I'm so much healthier as a responder rather than an initiator. And then the last thing is to know these life forces that are in you, these channels. There's 4 of them. I would like to point out something about the top channel that the blue thing is right next to. Gate 64 and gate 47. 64 says, I'm confused. 47 says, I know, I figured it out and I just realized why. You're constantly going through a process of being confused, feeling oppressed, and then suddenly realizing, oh, never mind, I figured it out. This is a process that won't stop inside of you. And part of it's unconscious. So it can be terribly upsetting when unconscious confusion, gate 64, it's red, and suddenly out of nowhere, you're under pressure, a confusion pressure. And that's a pressure to translate your own existence on this planet. Your existence and the existence
It's stressful as hell. That's what it is.
Yeah, because it's always on. It's a life force. It never turns off. Jennifer has this channel. I have this. The 3 of us have this channel. That means we have busy, active brains that are busy in a dream state when we're asleep, and they're wicked busy when we're awake, daydreaming, figuring out this, looking at that. Everything is fun. Everything's a possibility when you're a 6447. It's called the channel of abstraction. It knows no bounds as to what abstractly it can think about. It can think about anything. You know, could 1 and 1 equal 3 on some planet somewhere? Abstractly, sure it could. We don't know. Can't prove to me it doesn't. Prove it.
Right.
And the thing is, it also gets mired down in all the details of all the things that have ever gone on in the past, because that abstract nature is constantly churning up all the items from the past into something that suddenly becomes an aha moment whereby you realize. Gate 47 is the gate of realization. And when it's not realizing, it's the gate of oppression. It's oppressive how confusing this freaking thing is, whatever the thing is. And then suddenly,
I find that interesting that you're bringing all that up, Dan. I could probably talk to you for hours on this, because I do feel confused a lot, because I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Right. Well, that's and that's an unconscious, to see your body's perfection is saying, give the form confusion, because they are capable of handling it. They've got a powerful ajna that is defined, the green center, and we're the concept center of the body. There's the neocortex, the frontal lobe, and we are going to come up with measurements that finally come to this most striking moment humanity ever has, the moment of realization. We have a genetic construct that makes us realize stuff.
Okay, can I ask you, okay, so is it part of my nature to procrastinate? Like
Yes.
I'm not a lazy person. Like when I make my mind up to do something, I absolutely do it.
Yeah.
But I
The rest of
lose
the time you
interest
don't.
very quick.
The rest of the time you don't. And it's not a lazy person, and it's not even called the word procrastination. Presumes we have something we're supposed to do. That's the old seven-centered way. There was nothing you were supposed to do in the first place. Your mind is torturing you with the things that are open in your body graph, saying, oh, you're supposed to have a gate 63 and a gate 4, which you don't have. That means you're supposed to have a logical solution for why you're not going to procrastinate anymore. You ain't got that. You're just got mental confusion as a pressure pouring in on an abstract process that simply needs to wind through it and come to realizations to get rid of the oppressive nature of the confusion. You're designed to do that fluently. So as you get confused about something, and they're usually big things, it can sit with you for weeks, months, years. Some
Oh
confusion.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Let
I've
them
definitely
sit.
sat with some things for years,
Yes,
Dan.
let them sit, and in your confusion, in your communion with the other, as you start to meet more like forces that let you be you, Ida, and love you the way you are, suddenly these confusions will actually one by one start to take care of themselves, because that's what we're designed to do. And that's what some of the forces in this world are really trying very hard to make sure we don't do, commune with one another and do this very work. There's could be a consensus out there to sort of not let this happen in certain circles. So all of this comes down and it points at the throat, right through gate number 43. See that gate 43 off the bottom of the ajna? Yeah, well, it doesn't get to the throat. Gate 23 would suddenly make all these explanations, but gate 43 can't explain anything per se. It just has the insight. It's the gate of breakthrough, and it's dying to break through with its insights. It wants it more than anything. It's got an insight for everything. Your Mrs. Oh, you know what? Oh, you know what again? Oh, I just figured we could. And then you forgot what it was. If someone didn't pull it out of you in the moment, not always, but at least half the time, you forgot what the dang thing was if 5 minutes goes by. It's, oh, never mind, I lost it already. And back it'll come later, because you're so fertile with mental activity that is designed to come up with insights and breakthroughs. And when you're around the right people, they'll pull it out of you.
That's probably why we can spend like 2 or 3 hours on the phone.
I love talking to you, Jennifer, for sure.
I love talking to you too, girl.
I do. I enjoy you.
You guys have
but
this.
I can.
I think you both are. I mean, this is awesome. This has definitely given me, a lot to think about what you're sharing with me, Dan, because, I'm not a person I've never been, I mean, I don't consider myself, I'm not a woe is me person, right? Like I've had some challenges in my life for sure. And I had a real difficult time for a long time coming out of a lot of these. I kept looping, right? Trying to deal with the same thing the same way and not really getting a result, not getting, moving forward or breaking through or having the ahas or whatever. Because I would put other people before me and other people's excitement for life and their dreams and so forth. I kind of just put myself on the back burner, and I don't know, there's something, and the reason I'm saying what I just said, I feel there's something in me that I have not gotten to or been able to uncover that evidently has happened either as a child or something that was said or done that has not come up. I've buried it so deep, I don't know what it is.
I know what it is. It's your responder, and it was there from birth. And you got to know it for a short period of time as a child. It didn't matter what the situation was. All you had to do was be alive. And since you were alive and you're here now, which is proof you were alive back then, I'm going to assume, that responder got choked off. I can promise you, in all those moments that you nurtured those people, whatever it was, and you realize you weren't quite getting back what you're supposed to, and you try it again, I can promise you, if I were sitting there as one of your friends and saying, Ida, do you want to do this right now? I'd be getting no. No, I mean, no, I'll do it this time, but I really, oh no. And I'd be there pestering you. That's your truth, Ida. That's your truth. Doesn't mean don't do the thing right now. Just recognize you don't have the energy that you would like to have doing this thing. And recognize it's a lie. It's not your truth. Your truth is you don't want to be doing this. And you would have gotten quicker to the moment of impact when that third line anarchist comes out and tells the other, I don't want to do this. This isn't
well, I've gotten better at saying no.
Right.
Now,
but it's
for
been
sure. But of course,
you've
it's
had to learn
taken.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've had to learn. It's a lifelong process. You've had to learn, and that puts wounds in your body, thinking as if that's something you actually also have to work through. No, you can work through that all you want, but get to this responder. Your truth is a response. Everything else is a lie. And it's quite black and white, and you'll see it working, but it's only in the moment. So if later you're thinking through it and stuff, you'll never quite get to what the response was in the moment, right from your body. That was in immediate, move. This responsiveness. Your body's always ready to jump like a freaking hair trigger. You're Mrs. Hair Trigger, and you know it. When it's something you like. Is that true?
You are funny, Dan. He said you're Mrs. Hair Trigger.
And you know
what
it.
does that mean?
Well, it's just you laughed at it, so you know what I'm talking about. It's just
ready. That's funny. No, it's okay. It's the way you said it.
You're ready to apply your power in the now as a response, and that power is limitless. Is the point?
I have a book that needs to get finished so that I can move forward in what I'm here to do.
Let's do this. Hey, do you want to finish your book?
I do want to finish my book.
Are you? Do you have all the energy to finish your book?
I do have energy to finish my book.
Are you on topics of the book that you are interested in?
Say that again.
Is there any topic in the book that you're not interested in?
I haven't gotten that far yet, Dan. I'm only halfway. I don't know that there would be topics that I'm not interested in.
No. I'm asking in rapid fire to get to the yes, no. That's all.
Oh, okay.
So listen to what your body's saying when he's asked it.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said that. And I don't know is an option, but we're looking for just yes, no. Are there any sections of the book that are just sort of that might be no fun to write?
Yes.
Okay. Are you dreading those moments?
I don't know if that's I don't know.
Okay.
Am I?
I don't know, Ida. Now we're
okay. Well, let me tell you this, Dan. So when I started writing the book in 2012, 11-12, that's when all the targeting happened, and I shut down.
Right.
I stopped writing because my house was getting broke into, and military was jumping out taking pictures of me, and my DNA was activated, and I was seeing things and experiencing things that most don't get. And I was told that if I ever went public, that I would be severely targeted.
Is this
and that has caused my throat chakra to. I'm sorry.
Is that what the topic of the book is? Some of the things.
Book is called Little Sister's Lost Soul. And I realized that I came in with a group of beings. At that time, I chose to come in with them. Now that I've chose to go completely the other way, I've polarized the light, if you will, although I appreciate my darkness, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I realized that, I had a mission, and the mission, well, people don't want me sharing about my mission.
Is the book going to share that which others don't want?
I don't know what I just know that I have a story of forgiveness and love and kindness, but in order to get to that part, I would have to share some of the experiences that I went through, and how I've now come out the other side.
Does that make you a little bit nervous, the thought of having to share that?
It makes me nervous in that I want to make sure that I'm not going to create discomfort or harm to other people. And there I am again, worrying about what other people.
I was just about to point that out.
And I don't know how to correct
your
that
mind
within
was giving
myself.
you the words in that moment. Your mind was giving you the words, and your
Well,
response.
Dan, I don't know how to not care about what other people think. I just, or not think, but I don't know how to not be sensitive to other people's lives.
You
I don't know how to
to not be.
explain it. Yeah.
And that's perfect for you. So in the moment, so what I'm gathering, like a typical manifesting generator, you're not sure what the heck you're going to write. You just need to start
I
start
have
or pick up
200
where
book
you left
pages.
off.
I have a cover done. I have an introduction done. I
Yeah,
have
so you
half
need
of
to
a book written.
pick up where you left off. So you stopped at a point and you haven't restarted it yet. That's what I'm
No,
hearing.
I haven't.
Okay. Is that
I
okay?
feel like I need to get this book done and I need to move forward. And I didn't mean to make the show about that. So I just was simply asking you, is there something that's showing in this graph that
Yes.
might have
Yes. There's
okay.
something incredible showing in this graph about when you will and won't pick up that book to finish the rest of it. Whatever
Can you
timeline.
share with me what you're referring
Yeah,
to, please?
exactly. Whatever timeline your abstract mind is desiring, which it is desiring, because desire is part of the process. It desires clarity. So whatever desire you have to get a time frame on this, you're helpless to this unconscious definition, which is 5720, the channel of penetrating awareness, 14.2, which is this channel of a power that pushes the direction, and channel 1.8, which is the channel of inspiration. These are all individual channels, and they're incredibly moody, and they can only be empowered in the moment when they're in the mood. You can't do it, and you won't even pick up that pen until you're in the mood, and you might even go as far as to torture yourself as some kind of procrastinator when it's simply your vehicle wasn't in the mood yet. As soon as it's in the mood, you'll pump the book out in a day or two, or most of it. That's what's true, and you've seen
Well,
that.
that's interesting because when I was writing, Dan, it was like I was in no time.
Yeah,
Literally, like I didn't know if it was daylight or nighttime or what
right,
time it was because
right,
I was just in a pure creative expression. And
right.
I haven't felt that for a very long time. And I'm wondering what is wrong with me. Where am I creatively blocked that I am not doing what I really want to do is write the book and do public speaking and help others to reach their highest potential. And yeah,
And
I
this
would
book
love
will
to
help
do
you
that.
get to the public speaking part, or do you need the book to be the public speaker?
I think the book would be a great start
Okay.
prior to doing it because then I would have something to refer to and for people to be able to relate to by reading the
Aida,
book or yeah.
I can promise you that the big fat yes that's about to show up in your life, when it shows up, it will write the book in a couple of days. And you must surrender to your responsive nature that will give you the power to do that. It's not up to
Oh,
you.
Dan.
I'm sorry, honey, it's not up to you. This is the hard part about being a 9-centered human being. We used to be 7-centered human beings. That was the old way. Several centuries ago, we mutated, we literally evolved. Look at look at right up the center of this body graph. That is a 7-centered chakra system. But we grew wings. We have a triangle on the far right and a shape on the far left. We grew in awareness. And it's only been a couple of centuries. That's not long in evolutionary terms. We're still in an old 7-centered hangover. And that 7-centered way did work by mind. And mind could absolutely decide, oh, I'm going to do this and we're going to do that. And if it didn't do it, it would force someone else to do it for them. That's the old way. The new way is we're all so unique that we can only do for ourselves in communion with the other. The old way was I'm going to do for myself and I'll have slaves to do the other if I need to. That was the old way. We're not in that anymore. One has to be in the mood or it's not going to happen. And by the way, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You figured this out as a trait in you all these years later. You're not 20 years old anymore. You've already seen this as a trait. So I assume you've seen it as a trait. Is that true?
Yeah.
All right. So I love that. I think you're great that way.
I don't know. I don't know that I feel like I'm running out of time. I just feel like that there's so much more that I could be.
Yes, Jennifer, say
Open root.
open
You
root.
have an open root, so you constantly are under pressure, and that's the pressure to hit deadlines, pressure to do something, pressure to go, I have that. And that pressure can get very overwhelming. And when it does get overwhelming, for me, it's like a panic mode. Like I'm running out of time. I got to do this, and it's got to get done. If I don't do this, and then you get all up in your head.
And the thing is, when you have an open root center, it takes us away from our nature because it's who we're not. It creates the adrenaline in the body. It's the adrenals, and it's the pressure to move. It's movement and kundalini.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kundalini of the body. And when it's open, if you're not aware of its openness at first, because you've never seen this chart, in full, then you don't know that the not self old way strategy of this open root is playing out, which is the old way was always in a hurry to get rid of the pressure.
Yes.
And the new way is, if you've got a defined root, you deal with pressure just fine, mostly. And if you've got an open root, you're always in a hurry to get rid of the pressure, not recognizing you have no pressure. So,
well, okay, so I had a Kundalini awakening. Would that show in this graph, or this is from the day I was born now? That wouldn't show, right? Is that having a Kundalini activation, would that cause my root chakra to be open?
No,
I mean,
no, your birth time and your place in the program causes the chakras to be opened or closed. It's set, you're minted like a coin. It has nothing to do with external forces of other humans. It has to do with where the planets and the stars were at the time.
No, I'm not talking about other people. I'm talking about a self.
Right. Yeah. No.
This is just your vehicle. And so you're with me in my personal experience, because I had a Kundalini awakening too. The awareness is more profound within the design, but the vehicle itself won't actually change the diagram. So if you decided to come down here, to be a Ford, you're not upgrading the Ford. You're still in a Ford model, whatever suit. So it's just like the vehicle, but those things will trigger different stuff or aspects. For me, since my Kundalini awakening, I instead of I'm viewing things through my soul instead of like my mind or trying to make sense. It will still happen, but I'm able to observe the experiment, like Dan was talking about, a little bit more easier. It's just witnessing.
Yeah.
So,
this is pretty fascinating stuff, and I definitely. I mean, this is just absolutely.
We know this now. It's incredible that we can call this out for people at this point in time. Do you want to see where this drive of yours is going? You're driven to basically be sensitive to the amount of service you need to give to people. You're driven towards the sensitivity and the dedication of the use of your own personal resources as the result of external contact with others. You're driven to help serve the other, driven to it as one of your resources you bring as offering to the tribe, as you bring as offering to your connection to the other, as to why the other would you choose to have principles that would then bring you in and you bring them in. You're driven to do this, and then you also burn yourself out doing that. So recognize it's a drive, and then we can ask you questions. Hey, do you want to do that for this person? And suddenly in that very unique moment, not really, not that person, but this other person I'll do it for. Okay, now we know. Before you weren't sure. So I grabbed the book so I could read the actual line. It's just a thing that you're driven to do, and it's something we can count on in your body graph. So I love this design. Every design's perfect, Ida. There's no crappy design.
You're very kind, Dan, and I appreciate you taking the time, both of you, to come on the show and to share this information with me and to help me understand myself better. I mean, I definitely have my moments of stillness and silence, and I do consider myself to be very self-actualized and aware and of who and what I be.
Damn straight you are. Yes, in a penetratingly aware way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is important to me. I mean, I love to contribute, as what you're saying. I love to contribute. I love to bring value. I love to be helpful to others and so forth. And I suppose I could be selective sometimes and who I want to do that for.
Please
Yeah.
become selective. Become wicked selective.
Yeah, I'm becoming more and more selective for sure.
Yep.
I think part of it was I felt it was a duty because I had so much energy or so much vitality, so much ability that I felt like, you know, I don't know, I wouldn't say pity, but there would be people that I had it was, I think, part of my programming to want to rescue people and to help them. And part of it is because of the way I grew up, not having a whole lot. My mother was just a single parent and raised 12 children and did the best she could. But I grew up on my own pretty much, Dan. I mean,
I'm feeling that, yeah.
I've had some influences in my life, some, not the greatest, and then some that really did make efforts to help and guide me and so forth. So to guide me and whatever.
I totally understand what you're saying. So to wrap this all up then, just because so we don't end up going too far, recognize this chemistry inside your body called frustration. When you feel that chemistry, you haven't been responding. You've been trying to think your way to your truth and or initiate into something rather than waiting to respond like a good dog. Dogs bark when the other dog walks by. Be a good generator and learn to respond. That's literally what
I don't know that I like that explanation. Dogs bark when dogs, but
it's a perfect example of a response. But you're right. I get what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's me talking to a dude.
I am definitely not a dog. I am a divine living soul, and so are they. But yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? It's a response. It's always
I get it. I understand.
Moment responsiveness, and it's so profound in us that you'll see it in the experiment of starting to watch. Oh my God, that was true. You'll say, oh my God, that's not true. I just did it and it's not true. Oh my God, I hate it. And you'll laugh at yourself.
I think I'm already starting to do that.
Good.
I think I already started that before we met, and now you're just confirming to me. Yes. I think that's part of becoming self-aware. Yes. And especially when you're doing what's referred to as shadow work. You start recognizing where you're saying yes when you want to say no, or when you're you start manipulating in your head how to get something you want, what you need to do to get it. And I nip that in the bud real quick. We're not manipulating nothing. We're going to ask for what we want, and we can be told no, Ida. Period.
Right.
That's it. Right. And I can accept.
That's the not self themes that you can pick out in the human design that's coming out. So
just like say that again.
The not self themes. It's like the exact opposite of who you are not. But you are aware and you are practicing that. And now that I know your design better, when we're on the phone, we can definitely test it out. When I see that you're going through something, I can start asking you those generator questions, and we can pay attention. And in those moments of you getting those responses. But I'll tell you this, after Dan did my first initial reading, I had to percolate on it, to be honest.
Oh,
and
the
more I dive in, I will call him, because there's something that will happen that I witness, and I'm like, oh my God, Dan, it's true. Like I just witnessed da 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 da. And it will take you back, even whether you like it or you not. But there are some times where something will happen that I will witness, and me and Dan can laugh about it. It's so freeing. I cannot tell you how freeing it is, because it helps both of us and the individuals. Like even if we have something comes up and we have friction, and it's that self-realization, oh my gosh, it's part of the human design. Ha ha ha.
Right.
And it transmutes it. It allows us to start moving forward in a more peaceful manner.
Well, that's great. The word transmute is huge, right? Because we need to be able to alchemize and transmute
that's what we're here doing.
For sure.
So as
I want to bring up, so we are getting close to closing. I want you guys, Katie will make sure that she shares everything in the video. We'll get it uploaded. I absolutely appreciate both you. Jennifer, I'm so happy that I've met both you. I'm so happy to be introduced to this system so that I can navigate a little bit better my own divine, I call it my divine design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we are all divine sentient beings, and yes, we are in these avatar bodies, and not always understanding, what makes us tick the way we do and the way we think and so forth. So this is definitely absolutely intriguing to me. I wanted to bring up that these Jennifer and Guru Dan is going to be at the expo, the
UFO Expo.
UFO Expo, and I'm going to talk to or reach out to Rhiannon, and maybe we will have it posted on the YouTube. For some reason, I'm having glitches in my brain.
Well, we just filled you with a lot. We filled you with an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I want people to. We'll share the UFO Expo information. These guys are going to be there. If you're interested, go to the event. He will be offering sessions. Dan and Jennifer will both be offering sessions.
Jennifer will be out attracting society. I'll be reading sessions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Love,
and
I
that's
love
March 10th, 11th, and 12th of
Yes.
next year in Roswell, New Mexico. So make sure if you want to come get your tickets, because
Well, we're going to have you guys back on again before then, I'm sure, probably in a couple months, maybe, if you guys are willing to come back on and,
absolutely.
yeah. And
Can you
at
mention
that point, we will have something. I'll see if I can get a banner from either Tom Reed, who is the one that's putting on the, yes.
Dan
or
did
from
Tom's.
Dan did.
I read
Tom's, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know him. I've met him through Rhiannon. He and I have messaged a couple times, but I think it would be, well, maybe we'll have, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to Rhiannon and see if I can have her and Tom on, all of us on. And then maybe you'll talk about Coral Castle and what you came up with Coral Castle. And she can talk about what they found, and we can do a little mini show. And I think that would be exciting. Would you guys be willing to do that if I could get them to come on?
Yeah.
So can we do? Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, I'm gonna. She just messaged me while we were. I don't think she realizes I'm on a show. Probably not. So I will let her know that I have asked you guys, and maybe she'll see this. And anybody that is listening to the live, or when you go on YouTube, check out Rhiannon Alley
Yep.
on the UFO Expo on Coral Castle. It's pretty fascinating, interesting, intriguing information that they have come across by visiting there, realizing that there's some entities and haunted experiences and so forth. And then Dan has done
I read the design for
the design for it. So that's going to be a pretty interesting.
For the man.
I'm sorry?
I read the design for the man.
For the man, that's right.
Right.
So that'll be an interesting conversation, or maybe just Rhiannon. I don't know if Tom's going to have time. Maybe he will.
I think Jennifer, wasn't that right? I read the design of
yes,
the man.
The guy who actually designed Coral Castle, Dan decoded his human design. So it's a great forensic tool. And we have a show on YouTube. It's the Human Design Advantage. And on Wednesday nights, we do a lot of decoding of all these key players. And we even did Obama's, and you can tell between the two birth certificates which one profile fits him better that we see playing the world stage. So it's really good forensic tool to get to know these key players, especially historical key players. What they were like, what they were thinking, why they did what they did.
Okay, can I? And I was going to bring up, so I hope y'all don't feel that I'm talking about other people while having you guys on. But I was going to ask you about your show. So share more about your show with it so that they can go to your YouTube channel and check out the different talk about your show a little bit, Jennifer. Sorry, I'm having my brain
okay.
all of a sudden I can't, it's like I can't talk.
It's all
I
right.
don't know what the heck.
Anybody can go to our YouTube channel. It's called the Human Design Advantage. And on Wednesday nights, we do, like I said, world stage players, key players. We've done a couple of really cool people. I think Teal Swan, we decoded her. We've done David Icke. We've done the Obamas, the Clintons, several. So
are you able to do historical, like ancient, say biblical figures?
Nope.
No, it's
No.
kind of hard because, like Dan said, we did mutate, and that happened in the 1700s. So the charts that we're showing you now is for a 9-centered being, where before that was a 7-centered. So it really does determine that the accuracy of the report is really pinpointed down to your birth time. If we don't have that, we can pull up different charts and kind of narrow it down what would be closest. But
we did who else? Candace Owens.
We did last night we did Cayenne West, which was really well. He's definitely living with that within his design. On Sundays we have a show. Well, our Wednesday nights are at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Sundays we do a show at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's really learning more about human design. If you go to the very first episode that we did, we have, I think, 10 videos. It is like a training. Anybody who wants to learn, we actually broke it down into a mini training.
Okay, and I definitely want, yes, please send that to Katie so Katie can add it into the comment section for people, because I'm going to want to go to it and learn from it. I think it would be easier for me to be able to take notes and learn more.
Absolutely. And I made some infographics too yesterday that I'll make sure to post in the groups as well. You're able to pull your own chart off of our website now, and it kind of like with the infographics, it tells you kind of what you're looking at. So instead of like getting your design and like, okay, what is it that I'm looking at? What does this mean? You can kind of tell what each thing is. So on Sundays we do that, and then we are going to start introducing what's called fireside chats, and those are like open interviews. I'd like to have you on our show just to talk whatever, and other people, and it's just to really it breaks out. It incorporates human design, but it also incorporates all these other healing aspects that we can utilize as tools once we start to waken up to our human design, because it all plays a part. Like for me, I'm really big into mindfulness, and mindfulness does help me witness things within my experiment, where some people may not, because we live in a very busy society. And depending on their human design, how it is, they may not witness it at first. So I'm constantly paying attention to what's happening in the moment, so I'm able to catch it faster.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. We'll definitely, I would love to come on your show. Of course I would, Jennifer, anytime.
Jennifer, what was the next fireside chat we were thinking of doing? Do you remember?
Well, I want to have Lexi and her on, because I've actually been doing, I messaged her since she's really big into the parasites. I've been testing a theory that, you can track the transits with the moon through human design. So the past 3 months, what I've been paying attention to, that when it hits a certain gate, when it's transiting through the moon, it will trigger maybe different thoughts. So if it's a gate that's associated with love, or reminiscence of love or the past, I'm paying attention that if that's happening to me. Along with the parasite cleanse, the parasites will also give you thoughts and trigger those emotions.
For sure. Yes.
I'm pairing it together. So I really want to have her and Jeff on And we've had a couple of other different people, just different talks. Dan's mentor, she really pulls in the astrology aspect of things. Like I said, it's 5 different things: the I Ching, the astrology, the Kabbalah, the chakra system, and quantum physics.
You said Dan's mentor? Who's your
Yeah.
mentor?
Meg, Dr. Starkweather. Meg. Yeah, she's the one I bumped into back in 2008 or 9, where I got this whole show rolling. And
Nice.
I just
Maggie, what's her I mean, does she
Meg
do
Starkweather? No.
no?
She
Okay.
doesn't really, she doesn't have a presence or anything.
Okay. What was I gonna say to you? Something. Oh, so Jennifer and I are going to be doing a cleanse together. This new moon coming up. So we're gonna start it on the 6th. Is that right?
The 5th. We'll start on the 5th. Yes.
Yeah, which
because
is
the
only a
full
couple
moon's
days
on the
away.
8th. I've got Dan starting with me too, so all 3 of us are going to be doing it.
Yes, very good. And then we'll be able to come. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll all do the cleanse and we'll come back on and we can have an open discussion about the results and if take notes to see if any fun thoughts are coming to mind. And I would love to have you guys back on. We'll talk about it another time and figure out a topic that would be enjoyable for all of us, and we would all be able to contribute, because I'm not really able to I don't know enough about the human design, but I'm definitely going to go to your YouTube channel and see if I can start understanding some of this and what y'all are sharing.
The first 10 episodes were all about teaching the front to back on the surface so that people could get a good exposure.
Sure.
Yeah, and you can see how much we've grown, because that was like the very first one that we did to where we're at now.
Awesome.
But Dan's, I'm still learning. I'm able to keynote a lot of different things with the chart that I'm first, looking at. He's pretty much does a lot of the readings. He's phenomenal. Couples, we get such positive feedback when it comes to couples, romantic, business, friendships, whatever, and kids. We're very passionate about kids, and our whole mission here is to help liberate the individual. That's what we came down here to do.
Oh, Jennifer, I love that. Both of you guys are amazing. Good job. Yes, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I think you guys make a great team doing this together for sure. And especially having enough patience to listen to me interrupting you while you're talking, because my human design is to go fast and to react rather than respond. But I'm gonna take heed to everything that Dan said, and I will be sitting with it. And I appreciate it.
Experiment.
Well, Ida, I have the gate of listening.
Wow.
So I listen. And
that's probably why you and I do so well together, because you are definitely great at listening. And I can too, but I definitely
No, we don't have that particular gate. You and I, Ida, we don't. And the gate is called grace. We have a genetic proclivity to have the grace to hear out the other before we speak. It's part of what it is to be a good ruler. So Jen is all about that stuff.
Yeah, she's good.
Thank you.
All right, guys, this was super awesome. I appreciate you both coming on. We're going to go ahead and end the show. If anybody's interested, you will be able to find Guru Dan's contact information and Jennifer Nunez in the comment section when this is uploaded to YouTube. And we will have them back on after our cleanse, after we do this cleanse, and maybe when I get a little bit more familiar with the human design. Very good.
Oh,
good enough. Yeah. Thank you so much. Love you so much, Ida.
Yep. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yep.
And we'll wait for a minute before you guys go. We'll go ahead and end the show, Katie. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Come back again. Please share this information. Subscribe to my channel. I'm not looking for a bunch of followers. What I am looking to do is reach the hearts of many, and the people that I bring on my show are people that I find bring great value to humanity. You guys are doing a great thing, and I appreciate you. So let's just spread the love. Anyways, thank you. Very good.